Miami Vice didn't just look like a TV show. It looked like the 1980s exploding in neon, fast cars, designer suits, and dangerous nights by the ocean. But after the music faded and the lights of Miami changed, the cast's real lives moved in directions fans may not expect. Fame grew for some, faded for others, and time changed every face behind the legend. Here's what happened to the cast of Miami Vice then and now. Philip Michael Thomas became Ricardo Tubbs, the stylish New York detective hunting his brother's killer, at 35 years old, bringing soul, elegance, and emotional fire into the neon world of Miami Vice. Ricardo Tubbs stood out because he was never just the polished partner in a beautiful suit. He carried grief, revenge, and street intelligence beneath his calm surface, giving the series a sharper emotional pulse. Next to Crockett's Miami cool, Tubbs brought an outsider's focus, smooth enough to survive undercover, but wounded enough to make every dangerous case feel personal. Away from the series, Philip Michael Thomas worked as an actor, singer, musician, and voice performer. He later reached a new generation by voicing Lance Vance in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, a role that echoed the cool, dangerous energy many fans associated with him. Now 77, Philip Michael Thomas has mostly stepped away from major Hollywood attention, choosing a quieter life compared with his peak television fame. Even without frequent new screen roles, his image remains tied to the original style of Miami Vice. The music, the cars, the colors, and the rare chemistry that made Tubbs and Crockett feel iconic. Ricardo Tubbs remains unforgettable because Philip gave him more than style. He made him loyal, wounded, sharp, and quietly intense, helping turn a fashionable police drama into one of the defining television experiences of the 1980s. Don Johnson became James Crockett, the undercover Miami detective defined by pastel suits, fast cars, and a haunted sense of duty, at 34 years old, giving Miami Vice its cool, dangerous, and emotionally worn-down center. James Crockett became iconic because he looked effortless but never felt empty. Beneath the white jackets, speedboats, nightlife, and perfectly timed music was a man carrying exhaustion, failed love, danger, and the cost of pretending to be someone else for too long. Don Johnson made him stylish enough to define a decade, but human enough to feel damaged. Beyond the role, Don Johnson built a long career across television, film, and music. He later led Nash Bridges and appeared in projects such as Django Unchained, Knives Out, Watchmen, and Rebel Ridge, proving his career reached far beyond 1980s fame. Today, Don Johnson is 77 and continues to appear in film and television, though many fans still picture him first in Miami's neon glow. His later career has shown a performer who adapted across genres and generations, while the renewed interest in Miami Vice keeps Crockett's image alive. James Crockett's legacy is more than fashion or nostalgia. Don Johnson created a detective who felt cool on the surface and damaged underneath, making him one of television's most recognizable symbols of style, loneliness, and danger. Edward James Olmos became Martin Castillo, the quiet and intensely controlled lieutenant leading the Vice Squad, at 37 years old, bringing discipline, mystery, and emotional gravity into the neon chaos of Miami Vice. Martin Castillo stood out because he was the opposite of noise. He rarely wasted words, rarely showed panic, and never needed to raise his voice to command a room. Behind his calm face was a man shaped by violence, loyalty, and buried pain, which made him feel more dangerous than many of the criminals around him. His stillness gave the series a deeper, colder kind of power. Away from the show, Edward James Olmos built a remarkable career as an actor, director, and activist. He earned major acclaim for Stand and Deliver, Blade Runner, Battlestar Galactica, and decades of work supporting Latino representation in Hollywood. Now 79, Edward James Olmos remains active in film, television, public speaking, and advocacy. His career has continued with serious roles, cultural impact, and respect from audiences who see him as more than a familiar face from 1980s television. Martin Castillo remains one of the most unforgettable authority figures in crime drama. Edward James Olmos gave him silence, strength, and hidden sorrow, making every scene feel heavier the moment he entered. Olivia Brown became Trudy Joplin, the smart and stylish vice detective working inside Miami's dangerous undercover world. At 24 years old, adding confidence, warmth, and sharp presence to the squad. Trudy Joplin stood out because she brought strength without losing humanity. She could handle pressure, deception, and danger, but she never felt cold or mechanical. In a show often remembered for men in fast cars and pastel jackets, Trudy gave the team a grounded female voice, observant, capable, and emotionally aware, in a city full of secrets. Away from the series, Olivia Brown continued acting in television and film, with appearances in shows such as Designing Women, Lois and Clark, Seventh Heaven, and other network projects. Her career showed the steady work of a performer who could move between drama, comedy, and guest roles. The née Olivia Brown is 66 and lives a quieter public life than during the height of Miami Vice. She is not constantly in the Hollywood spotlight, but fans still remember her as one of the key women who helped balance the show's style with intelligence and emotional texture. Trudy Joplin remains important because Olivia Brown made her feel real inside a world built on flash. She brought elegance, courage, and quiet authority to the squad, giving Miami Vice more than just style. Michael Talbott became Stan Switek, the vice detective known for surveillance work, street humor, and loyalty to the team, at 29 years old, bringing a rougher, everyday energy into the stylish world of Miami Vice. Stan Switek stood out because he felt less polished than Crockett and Tubbs, and that made him valuable. He brought sarcasm, frustration, and working cop realism to a show full of music video cool. His partnership with Zito gave the squad a more grounded rhythm, showing the long hours, bad jokes, and emotional wear behind undercover police work. Away from the series, Michael Talbott continued acting in film and television, appearing in crime dramas, thrillers, and supporting roles. Although he never reached the same level of mainstream fame as some co-stars, his work on Miami Vice kept him strongly connected to 1980s television fans. Now 71, Michael Talbott has spent many years outside the center of Hollywood attention. He is more closely associated with convention appearances, fan memories, and the enduring cult status of Stan Switek than with constant new screen projects. Stan Switek remains memorable because Michael Talbott made him feel like a real detective under the neon surface. He gave the squad humor, loyalty, and fatigue, reminding viewers that behind the style, the job still took a toll. John Diehl became Larry Zito, the vice detective partnered with Stan Switek, at 34 years old, bringing dry humor, street-level grit, and a more grounded cop energy into Miami Vice. Larry Zito stood out because he helped show the less glamorous side of the squad. While Crockett and Tubbs carried the show's neon style and undercover danger, Zito felt closer to the working detective reality. Long stakeouts, awkward surveillance, small frustrations, and moments of loyalty that did not need to be flashy. His chemistry with Switek gave the series a rough, human rhythm outside the main partnership. Away from the series, John Diehl built a respected career as a character actor in film, television, and theater. He appeared in projects such as Stargate, Nixon, Jurassic Park 3, The Shield, and many independent films, often playing intense, rugged, or emotionally complicated men. Now 76, John Diehl has lived a quieter public life than many actors tied to major 1980s television fame. He has continued working in selective screen and stage roles, but he is not constantly chasing celebrity attention, which makes his career feel more like that of a serious working actor than a nostalgia figure. Larry Zito remains memorable because John Diehl gave him honesty without polish. His role reminded viewers that beneath the music, cars, and neon lights, Miami Vice was also about tired cops trying to survive a dangerous city. Martin Ferrero became Izzy Moreno, the slippery informant and small-time operator drifting through Miami's criminal underworld, at 36 years old, adding comic tension and streetwise unpredictability to Miami Vice. Izzy Moreno stood out because he brought a different flavor to the show's dangerous world. He was nervous, fast-talking, shady, and strangely charming, the kind of man who always seemed one step away from a scam or a disaster. In a series full of stylish cops and violent criminals, Izzy gave viewers a messy survivalist, someone funny, frightened, and useful in the same breath. Outside the show, Martin Ferrero built a long career in film and television, often playing distinctive supporting roles. Many audiences also remember him as Donald Gennaro in Jurassic Park, where his panicked energy became part of one of the most famous blockbuster films of the 1990s. Today, Martin Ferrero is 79 and has been far less visible on screen in recent years. Though he no longer appears regularly in major projects, his work continues to live through two very different fan bases: those who remember Izzy from the neon streets of Miami, and those who know him from the dinosaur chaos of Jurassic Park. Izzy Moreno remains a fan favorite because Martin Ferrero made him more than comic relief. He gave the character nerves, charm, and desperation, turning a recurring informant into one of the show's most colorful survivors. Sheena Easton became Caitlin Davies, the glamorous singer whose romance with James Crockett changed the emotional direction of the series. At 25 years old, bringing music, beauty, and heartbreak into Miami Vice. Caitlin Davies stood out because she gave Crockett something rare: the possibility of a life beyond undercover danger. Her presence softened him, challenged him, and briefly pulled him toward love instead of survival. In a show built on style, crime, and emotional distance, Caitlin brought vulnerability, making her storyline feel romantic, fragile, and painfully doomed. Away from the series, Sheena Easton was already an international pop star. She became known for hits like Morning Train, For Your Eyes Only, Strut, and You Got the Look with Prince, building a music career that crossed pop, dance, R&B, and adult contemporary. Now 67, Sheena Easton remains celebrated more as a singer than as a television actress. She has continued performing, appearing in stage productions, concerts, and music-related projects, while her Miami Vice role still holds a special place for fans who remember the show's blend of pop music and drama. Caitlin Davies remains unforgettable because her story gave the series one of its most emotional turns. Sheena Easton brought glamour and tenderness to a world of danger, leaving behind a love story that still feels tied to the show's melancholy heart. Belinda Montgomery became Caroline Crockett, James Crockett's former wife and the mother connected to his life outside police work, at 34 years old, bringing emotional history and family tension into Miami Vice. Caroline Crockett stood out because she reminded viewers that Crockett was not only a stylish undercover detective moving through Miami nightlife, he was also a man with a broken marriage, a child, and a personal life damaged by the job. Her presence made his loneliness feel deeper, showing that danger did not only follow him on the streets, it followed him home. Away from the series, Belinda Montgomery built a long career across television and film. She appeared in projects such as Doogie Howser, MD, Man from Atlantis, Tron, Legacy, and many guest roles, often bringing warmth and emotional clarity to supporting characters. Now 76, Belinda Montgomery has lived a quieter public life than many stars from the height of 1980s television. She is not constantly in the spotlight, but her work remains familiar to fans of classic drama, science fiction, and family-centered television. Caroline Crockett remains meaningful because she gave Crockett's story a personal cost. Belinda Montgomery helped show the woman and family left behind by a man who belonged too much to the job, the city, and the dangerous world he could never fully escape. Charlie Barnett became Neville Lamont, one of the streetwise figures moving through Miami's dangerous and unpredictable world, at 29 years old, bringing raw comic energy and urban realism into Miami Vice. Neville Lamont stood out because Charlie Barnett had a presence that felt completely alive. He could make a scene feel loose, nervous, funny, and unpredictable all at once. In a series famous for style and controlled cool, his energy brought something rougher and more spontaneous. The feeling of a real street performer dropped into a neon crime drama. Away from the show, Charlie Barnett was best known as a stand-up comedian with a fearless, magnetic style. He became a legend in New York's Washington Square Park comedy scene, and later appeared in film and television, including DC Cab and They Bite. Charlie Barnett passed away in 1996 at the age of 41 after complications related to AIDS. His death came painfully early, cutting short the life of a performer many fellow comedians remembered as brilliant, wild, and impossible to copy. Neville Lamont may not be one of the biggest names in the cast list, but Charlie Barnett's presence gives the role a special spark. He brought street rhythm, danger, humor, and vulnerability, the kind of energy that made even a brief appearance feel lived in. Marc Macaulay became Doc Jerry, a supporting figure in the criminal and undercover world of Miami Vice, at 26 years old, adding another face to the show's crowded landscape of informants, hustlers, and street-level survivors. Doc Jerry stood out because roles like his helped make Miami feel busy, unstable, and full of hidden stories. He was not designed to dominate the series, but his presence added texture to the world around Crockett and Tubbs, a world where every minor contact could lead to danger, betrayal, or useful information. Away from the series, Marc Macaulay became a hard-working character actor with a long list of film and television credits. He appeared in projects such as Monster, Bad Boys, Wild Things, Burn Notice, and many crime dramas shot in or around Florida. Now 69, Marc Macaulay remains known as the kind of actor whose face viewers may recognize before they remember his name. His career has been built on steady supporting work, often playing cops, criminals, agents, and tough men inside high-pressure stories. Doc Jerry's place in Miami Vice is small, but it fits the show's larger appeal. Marc Macaulay helped fill the city with believable side characters, making the neon streets feel dangerous, crowded, and alive beyond the main detectives. Gregory Sierra became Lieutenant Lou Rodriguez, the early Vice squad leader trying to keep order over Crockett, Tubbs, and the team, at 47 years old, bringing authority and old-school police weight into Miami Vice. Lieutenant Lou Rodriguez stood out because he grounded the show before Martin Castillo took over. He was not built around mystery or silence. He felt like a veteran officer managing dangerous cases, difficult personalities, and a city already slipping into something darker. His presence helped the first season feel more procedural, giving the squad a practical command voice before the series fully leaned into its colder, neon noir identity. Away from the series, Gregory Sierra built a long and respected television career. Audiences knew him from Sanford and Son, Barney Miller, Soap, and many guest roles where he brought humor, toughness, and character depth to supporting parts. Gregory Sierra passed away on January 4, 2021, at the age of 83 after a battle with cancer. His death was widely noted by fans of classic television, who remembered how often his face appeared across some of the most beloved shows of the 1970s and 1980s. Lieutenant Lou Rodriguez remains an important piece of the show's early foundation. Gregory Sierra gave him credibility, warmth, and command, helping establish the squad before Miami Vice became one of television's most stylish crime dramas. Pam Grier became Valerie Gordon, the tough New York detective with a complicated emotional tie to Ricardo Tubbs, at 35 years old, bringing power, history, and romantic tension into Miami Vice. Valerie Gordon stood out because she was never just a guest love interest. She matched Tubbs with intelligence, confidence, and her own hard-earned toughness, making their connection feel like something rooted in a life before Miami. Her presence gave Tubbs more emotional history and showed that the danger around him was not only professional, it reached into love, memory, and trust. Away from the series, Pam Grier was already a groundbreaking screen icon. Her roles in films like Coffee and Foxy Brown made her one of the defining women of 1970s action cinema, and she later earned major renewed acclaim with Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown. Now 77, Pam Grier remains active as a cultural icon, actress, author, and public figure. She continues to appear in film, television, interviews, and fan events, while her influence on action heroines, black cinema, and women-led screen power remains widely recognized. Valerie Gordon matters because Pam Grier brought more than star presence to the role. She gave Miami Vice strength, sensuality, and emotional history, making every scene with Tubbs feel charged with something deeper than style. Dennis Farina became Albert Lombard, a powerful mob figure moving through Miami's criminal world, at 40 years old, bringing street credibility, menace, and old-school underworld authority into Miami Vice. Albert Lombard stood out because Dennis Farina understood that real danger does not always need shouting. He gave the character a calm, controlled weight, the feeling of a man used to being obeyed and feared. In a series filled with stylish criminals, Lombard felt more traditional and grounded, a reminder that behind the neon surface, organized crime still had deep roots and brutal rules. Away from the show, Dennis Farina had one of Hollywood's most distinctive second-act careers. Before acting, he served as a Chicago police officer, and that real-world background shaped memorable roles in Crime Story, Get Shorty, Law & Order, and many crime films. Dennis Farina passed away on July 22, 2013, at the age of 69 after suffering a pulmonary embolism. His death brought tributes from fans who admired his rough charm, natural authority, and unmistakable Chicago presence. Albert Lombard remains memorable because Farina made him feel authentic. He brought lived-in toughness to Miami Vice, giving the show a villain who seemed less like a performance and more like someone pulled from the real streets. Elizabeth Ashley became Madeline, a character who brought mature drama and emotional weight into the world of Miami Vice. At 45 years old, adding old Hollywood intensity to the show's guest cast. Madeline stood out because Elizabeth Ashley did not play her like a simple background figure. She brought a sense of history, tension, and adult complexity that fit the series' darker emotional corners. In a show often built around young style and urban danger, her presence gave the story a more seasoned energy, the feeling that every character carried a past. Away from the series, Elizabeth Ashley built a distinguished career on stage, film, and television. She won a Tony Award for Take Her, She's Mine, earned multiple Tony nominations, and appeared in projects such as The Carpetbaggers, Evening Shade, and Treme. Now 87, Elizabeth Ashley remains respected as a major American stage actress, even though she is less visible in mainstream screen projects than during earlier decades. Her career has been defined by sharp intelligence, theatrical force, and a voice that could command attention instantly. Madeline's place in Miami Vice gains strength from Ashley's larger legacy. She brought class, mystery, and dramatic authority, proving that even guest roles could feel richer when played by someone with true stage power. Stanley Tucci became Frank Mosca, a young criminal figure in the tense world of Miami Vice, at 23 years old, bringing early flashes of the controlled intensity that later defined his career. Frank Mosca stood out because Tucci already had that sharp, watchful quality on screen. Even in an early role, he could make a character feel intelligent, dangerous, and tightly wound. His appearance now feels fascinating for fans because it captures a future major actor before the polished fame, awards recognition, and beloved screen persona that came later. Away from the series, Stanley Tucci built one of Hollywood's most admired careers. He became known for Big Night, The Devil Wears Prada, The Lovely Bones, Spotlight, The Hunger Games, and acclaimed food and travel work connected to Italian culture. Today, Stanley Tucci is 66 and remains highly active as an actor, writer, director, producer, and television host. His public image has only grown warmer with time, especially through his food-centered storytelling and elegant dry humor. Frank Mosca is a small, early piece of Tucci's journey, but it makes his transformation even more impressive. From a young guest role in a neon crime drama to one of modern cinema's most beloved character actors, his career became far bigger than anyone watching then could have guessed. Giancarlo Esposito became Adonis Jackson, a young figure inside the tense criminal world of Miami Vice, at 26 years old, bringing early intensity and sharp screen focus into the series. Adonis Jackson stood out because Esposito already had the controlled presence that would later become one of his trademarks. Even in a smaller role, he could make a character feel alert, dangerous, and full of hidden calculation. His appearance now feels like a glimpse of an actor before the world fully understood how powerful his stillness could be. Away from the series, Giancarlo Esposito built an extraordinary career across film and television. He became internationally known for Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Mandalorian, The Boys, and decades of work with filmmakers like Spike Lee. Now 68, Giancarlo Esposito remains highly active in Hollywood, often playing intelligent, controlled, and intimidating figures. His career has grown into one of the strongest examples of a character actor becoming a modern pop culture icon. Adonis Jackson is a small, early role, but it adds depth to Esposito's journey. From the neon shadows of Miami Vice to some of television's most feared villains, his evolution has been remarkable. Ving Rhames became Georges, an early screen role inside the dangerous atmosphere of Miami Vice, at 25 years old, bringing physical presence and quiet force to the show's world. Georges stood out because Rhames had a gravity that could be felt even before he became a household name. His build, voice, and serious expression gave the character weight, making his appearance feel stronger than the size of the role. He looked like someone who belonged in a world of risk, pressure, and street-level danger. Away from the series, Ving Rhames became widely known for powerful roles in Pulp Fiction, Mission Impossible, Dawn of the Dead, Con Air, and many action and crime films. His deep voice and commanding presence made him one of Hollywood's most recognizable performers. Today, Ving Rhames is 67 and remains active in film, especially through the long-running Mission Impossible franchise. His career has stayed tied to authority, toughness, and emotional depth across several generations of audiences. George may be only an early credit, but it captures the beginning of a screen presence that would become unmistakable. Ving Rhames turned strength, silence, and intensity into a lasting Hollywood identity. Saundra Santiago became Gina Calabrese, the skilled vice detective working undercover in Miami's dangerous nightlife, at 27 years old, bringing intelligence, beauty, and emotional toughness to the squad. Gina Calabrese stood out because she was never just decoration inside a stylish crime drama. She worked dangerous cases, handled deception, and carried the emotional burden of a job that demanded confidence under pressure. Her connection with Crockett also added quiet heartbreak, showing how personal feelings could survive in a world built on lies, risk, and professional distance. Away from the series, Saundra Santiago built a steady career in television, stage, and film. She later appeared in Guiding Light, One Life to Live, The Sopranos, Damages, and theater productions, showing range far beyond the neon police world that first made her widely known. Today, Saundra Santiago is 69 and remains connected to acting through screen work, theater, music, and public appearances. She has kept a more selective profile than some co-stars, but fans continue to value her as one of the original women who gave the series strength and emotional texture. Gina Calabrese remains a key part of Miami Vice because Saundra Santiago made her capable, vulnerable, and believable. She gave the squad a human heartbeat inside a world of glamour, danger, and secrets. The style, music, and unforgettable characters of Miami Vice still define an era of television. Thank you for watching. Share which cast member changed the most, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more classic TV stories.